Hey, what's up, witches? Today I'm here just to do a quick little tarot deck, oracle deck review video for you. Just something quick, easy, casual for me to just sit down and film, because I had done another video recently where I went over that Yggdrasil and the 9 realms Norse-themed oracle deck, and in that one I kind of mentioned briefly that I have another Norse-themed oracle deck that, so far from just my limited experience in working with both of them, this has kind of been my go-to more when I want to commune with Norse deities specifically or whatnot. So that oracle deck is this Odin and the 9 Realms Oracle. And it says this is a 54 card set by Sonia Grace. And as you can see, it comes in this nice big magnetic closure box. And then inside we have some nice big cards. This one goes flying onto the floor, and a little guidebook here. Let's see what I pulled. Let's see what flew off of the deck and wanted to be seen and heard today. And it's Rune. Very cool. And so as you can see, the artwork in this card, these cards, it's not super elaborate or fancy or detailed or anything. Or at least I wouldn't say it's like a realistic form of illustration. While the artwork on the Yggdrasil Norse divination deck with the black and white line drawings, it was very intricate and elaborate and very detailed in its artwork. And these are a little bit more simple, but I think I like it. There's just something about this more folk art depiction. Like I said, one of my main issues that kind of kept me from connecting personally with the other Norse deck is that all of the cards were just in black and white. And for me personally, as you can see, that's just not really my aesthetic. So I like that these cards, while they're not super realistic or detailed illustrative drawings, it's bold, it's colorful, it makes a powerful statement, it's kind of just easy to read. Yeah, this one's my girl Freya. So it has a little bird there with some type of rune stave, and then there's her little kitty. So I don't know, there's just something very easy, a little bit less intimidating, if you will, about these cards. I like the size of them. I normally don't like such big cards. That's kind of my only qualm with some of these oracle decks, is that the box that they come in is so big and the cards themselves are so large that it can kind of make traveling with some of these a hassle. But in terms of just storing them here, it's nice to have just a little box to keep everything in with the guidebook. There are a couple different categories of cards within this oracle deck. We have cards which represent the different realms, like Vanaheim, Alfheim, Asgard, and then there are cards that represent gods and goddesses. Here's Loki, an interesting depiction of him with the blue tinged skin, perhaps hinting at his giant parentage there, which we don't see a lot. And then Jormungandr, that one's pretty cool. And then other beings like Hugin and Munin. There's one to represent Yggdrasil itself. Much like this Yggdrasil in the 9 Realms deck, there are different categories. There are different categories of cards. Had different groups for gods, goddesses, realms. Find one. There's our boy Odin. So still some very cool and rich artwork, rich and colorful, and still full of little hidden meanings and details that I myself haven't really had much time to go in and examine yet, but it's pretty straightforward in its depictions of these gods and goddesses and some of the common themes and associations you'll see with them. Like Freya had her cats, here's Skadi, the snowshoe goddess, on her snowshoes, Tyr and Fenrir. But what I also like about this deck, and I think what makes me go toward it more than the other Norse-themed oracle deck that I have, aside from just that aesthetically this appeals to me. I like looking at the artwork and all of the colors. But in addition to realms, gods, and goddesses, it also contains rune cards. So if you're traveling and you don't have a set of rune stones, but you have this deck, you could go through and pull out just the rune cards and do like a rune spread or a rune reading with this deck too. So to me, it's just been a little bit more adaptable and easier to work in with the other types of just standard everyday readings that I do. In my last video about the Yggdrasil deck, someone did comment that that deck might just be good for more in-depth work or like shadow work, and just more deeper readings and more specific readings. And I think that is a really good point, and perhaps why I'm kind of finding it hard to just integrate into a typical, like, am I going to get this job, or what's going on with my love life, or like, what's the next month going to bring for me? Like, those are usually the types of things that I'm looking into for myself, or for others, and every now and then I'll kind of go to it for like a more shadow work based thing. So this deck might be better for that type of in-depth work because of the detailed and in-depth meanings of the artwork and of the cards themselves, whereas this one is just, it's cool. Like, I could see you using this with your kids as like Norse god flashcards, or just showing it off in that way because of the art and just the simplicity. If you go in and look at the guidebook, it then does also give you the meanings of the cards. So here we have Tyr is sacrifice. It just kind of gives you a little bit of the meaning of Tyr and how that would then apply as a deeper overall meaning of sacrifice within a reading. And in this book, it also gives the Merkstave, or the reversed position, which I think that's up to everyone's personal choice when you're doing any type of tarot reading, whether or not you want to read reversed cards or not. Most of the time, I actually don't. Not only do I think it's just a little bit easier if you're a beginner for any type of card reading to not have to worry about upright versus reversed meanings. I mean, usually it's just that whatever the card means, if it means something good, then technically the Merkstave or the reversed would mean like the opposite of it. But in this world, in this life, in reality, we know that nothing is ever just wholly black or white or good versus evil. And so I think that every card also contains a duality and both good and bad within itself, and especially just depending on the context of the reading, of the person, and of the other cards. So that's just my take on things. I know as I myself am trying to kind of brush up on my tarot skills, get better at my intuitive skills, I am starting to take in the reversed meanings more, just depending, like I said, on the context of a reading. If I pull a reversed card and within that pull or that reading it just seems to make sense to read it reversed, then I'll leave it just to kind of help myself be a better card reader. But for the most part, I just kind of incorporate both aspects into a card depending on what I see. I do like that this deck contains rune cards as well, which I think the other Norse-themed deck does not. So it just makes it a little bit more versatile, a little bit more fun and easy and hands-on to play with. Yeah, you can see I have like all of the rune cards pulled out because I probably did that myself at one point the last time I used this. So yeah, that's just one thing I really like about it. So if there's 54 cards in this set and 24 of them are rune cards, then that means that the other half are the God and Realm cards. So it's not quite as extensive as this one is in terms of the more obscure beings that it includes as cards. Like I showed off here with that deck, you had like some dwarves and elves being included as well within the ranks, along with the realms, whereas this one just kind of focuses on the 9 main realms, the main gods in the pantheon of Aesir and Vanir, and then it does include a couple of things like the Norns and Gefjun as some of the more obscure deities, but yeah, it's just a little bit more simple, straightforward, and to the point, and a little bit more intuitive, and as I said, less intimidating than perhaps this Yggdrasil deck. And like I said, this is just all my personal opinion, my own personal experiences with these decks so far. I haven't gotten to use either of them nearly as much as I would like, just because I have not been doing nearly as many tarot readings, both for myself and in general, as I want to. It's definitely something I want to get back into the habit of just playing around with more, even if it's not like a super serious sit-down reading where I make this whole big production of it. And most of the time when I do readings for myself, I write down the readings and the results so I can go look back on things later. I need to just kind of get in the habit of playing around with cards, doing just the 1 card, 3 card pull here and there, daily card pull as practice, and just a fun way of keeping up with it, because I haven't gotten to use this or the other decks that I have nearly as much as I would like to. But as I said, I've found myself going toward this one more often when I want to incorporate a Norse-specific themed cards in some of my readings, because this one is, yeah, just a little bit more complex, a little bit more of a struggle to grasp some of the meanings of the cards and how they can apply to us or to the reading itself, as far as translating and finding the applications of the meanings of cards. I like to go to this one if like I said, I want to do like a rune pull and see what runes it comes up with, or if I am just kind of, I think I've used this in some of my readings here on the channel before, just as a kind of Norse pagan themed tie-in, to be like, okay, what gods and what messages, what gods might have messages to come through for us, for me, you know, who might I need to get in touch with that I haven't communicated with or focused on before, that kind of thing. Ooh, and I got the Odin rune. He's been showing his face around here for me a lot lately. Yeah, I just wanted to take a little brief moment to show off this bright, fun, and colorful deck for you, and just kind of be able to compare it to the other one that I just reviewed in terms of just my own personal likes and dislikes about it. Like I said, I think one of the big reasons, aside from this one containing rune cards, that just attracts me to it more is that it's bright and colorful, which just attracts me to it more personally, whereas like this might just be someone else's total aesthetic and they're like way into it and have been able to work with this a lot more and get a lot more out of it so far than I have. So yeah, this one just might be better for more specific, more in-depth things, whereas this Odin and the Nine Realms Oracle is just a little bit more easy for me to wrap my head around, has been just a little bit more easy and intuitive for me to go to and incorporate with some of my other cards. I like to mix and match a lot now. I used to only have tarot decks and only read tarot, and now that I have oracle decks as well, I like to incorporate both and pull from some of each in a reading now, as you've seen. So I definitely would recommend this if you're new to Norse paganism and new to card reading. It's just a really fun, easy way to both familiarize yourself with the runes and some of the more common gods in the pantheon, as well as the realms, and just have just a quick, easy, like, yeah, almost flashcard guide to familiarizing yourself with some of these beings and these concepts. And then just a really fun, short little deck to help you kind of perhaps get even more hands-on with them and commune with them. For me, using tarot and oracle, just because it's something that I've been doing for years and am more experienced with, has just been one of my go-to ways to commune with deity. And everyone will have their easier and their go-to methods for doing that. This has definitely just been something that was easy for me to transition over and adapt within my life to use for communing with deity, as well as just performing readings. I just wanted to sit down, talk about this with you, let you know what my thoughts, feelings, and opinions are on this Odin and the Nine Realms Oracle deck, and yeah, check it out. Let me know if you have it and what you think of it, or if you have both, how you would compare and contrast these two Norse-themed Oracle decks. That's all I really have for you guys to talk about on this one. I wish I could go a little bit more in depth on my own experiences with it. But yeah, it's been pretty easy and straightforward and just fun and quick to incorporate or just use in its own readings. It's very versatile and adaptable, like I said, with being able to just take this with you if you want some on-the-go rune cards instead of rune stones. That's a fun way that you can adapt and use this deck. That's about all I really have to say about that. So I hope that you'd enjoyed this fun, quick little review, and until next time, stay classy, pagan.